The invitation had come unexpectedly, tucked away in a crumpled envelope found in the mailbox one cold November morning. It was from an old friend, Jack, whom I hadn't seen in years. We had grown up together, spending our summers in the thick woods of Northern Maine, exploring every hidden corner of the vast wilderness. The letter was brief, inviting me to join him for a weekend of camping in those same woods where we had once roamed freely as children. "Let's relive the old days," the letter read. "Just you, me, and the great outdoors." There was something nostalgic about the idea. The thought of escaping the city and immersing myself in the tranquility of nature was tempting. But there was also a strange, unsettling feeling that accompanied the invitation, a sense of unease that I couldn't quite shake off. Perhaps it was the memory of the stories we used to tell each other around the campfire, tales of the mysterious creatures and ghostly apparitions that supposedly haunted those woods. Nevertheless, I decided to go. After all, what harm could a weekend in the woods do? I packed my bags, threw them in the trunk of my car, and set off for the small town where Jack and I had spent our childhood. The drive to the town was long and uneventful, the highway stretching out before me like an endless ribbon of asphalt. As I left the city behind, the landscape gradually transformed from the gray monotony of urban life to the vibrant hues of autumn. The trees were ablaze with color, reds, oranges, and yellows, painting the forest with a fiery brilliance. But as I got closer to my destination, the colors began to fade, giving way to the bare branches of the trees that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. I arrived at the old town just as the sun was beginning to set. The place hadn't changed much since the last time I had been there. The same old buildings lined the streets, their windows dark and empty. There was an eerie silence that hung in the air, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves as the wind swept through the town. Jack was waiting for me at the edge of the woods, standing by his truck with a broad grin on his face. He looked older, but there was a spark in his eyes that I recognized from our younger days, a sense of adventure that had never faded. "It's good to see you, man," he said, pulling me into a bear hug. "I can't believe it's been so long." "Yeah, it's been a while," I replied, returning the hug. "These woods haven't changed a bit." "That's the beauty of it," Jack said, looking out at the forest. "It's like stepping back in time." We loaded our gear into Jack's truck and drove deeper into the woods, the narrow dirt road winding through the trees. The further we went, the more the forest seemed to close in around us, the branches overhead forming a dense canopy that blocked out the fading light. By the time we reached our campsite, it was nearly dark. We set up our tents in a small clearing by a stream, the sound of the running water providing a soothing backdrop to the evening. Jack built a fire, and soon the flames were crackling, casting a warm glow that pushed back the encroaching darkness. We sat around the fire, reminiscing about the old days and catching up on the years that had passed since we last saw each other. As the night wore on, the conversation turned to the stories we used to tell as kids, the legends and myths that had haunted our childhood. There was the tale of the Wendigo, a monstrous creature that roamed the woods, devouring anyone who crossed its path. And then there was the story of the ghostly woman who wandered the forest at night, searching for her lost child. Jack leaned in closer to the fire, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Do you remember the story about the whispers in the woods?" I nodded, feeling a chill run down my spine. "Yeah, I remember. They say that if you hear the whispers, it means something bad is about to happen." "Exactly," Jack said, his eyes gleaming in the firelight. "Well, I've heard them." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Jack looked around, as if checking to make sure we were alone. "A few weeks ago, I came out here by myself, just to get away from everything. It was late, and I was sitting by the fire, just like we are now, when I heard it, the whispers. They were faint at first, like a breeze rustling through the leaves. But then they got louder, more distinct, like voices speaking in a language I couldn't understand." "What did you do?" I asked, my voice barely audible. I tried to ignore it, but it just kept getting louder. I felt this presence, like something was watching me from the trees. I got out of there as fast as I could. "And you came back?" Jack nodded. "I had to. I needed to know if it was real, or if I was just imagining things. A heavy silence fell over us. The fire crackled and popped, sending sparks flying into the night. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. "Do you think it could happen again?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Jack didn't answer right away. He stared into the flames, his expression unreadable. "I don't know," he finally said. "But that's why we're here, right? To find out."